My mother's lasagna was famous in our family, not because it was the best food in the world, but because she only made it when she wanted something. The cloth napkins came out, the candle was lit, the company plates appeared like we were hosting royalty. And the moment I saw the setup, my chest tightened, because I knew what was coming. Then my phone buzzed under the table. Security alert, password reset attempt detected. Not from my apartment. From this house. I didn't even breathe for a second. And stay till the end, because the twist that came next didn't just shock me. It ended my family's favorite game forever. I'm Maya Reed, 32, and I work as a senior risk analyst at Ravenbrook Trust, a quiet financial firm that pays well and expects perfection. My brother Evan is 28 and calls himself an entrepreneur. That word has covered a lot of disasters. A custom sneaker, brand that never shipped. A meal prep service that lasted 2 months. A marketing agency that was basically Evan making a logo and quitting. Every time he failed, my parents said the same thing. He's learning. He's so close. Family supports family. Which really meant I paid. Over 5 years, I'd handed over money in small, temporary amounts that were supposed to come back. They never did. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was how they trained me to feel guilty for even remembering it. That night, the 4 of us sat at the table like a scene from a movie, where everyone smiles while hiding knives under the plates. My dad, Glenn, poured sparkling water like he was hosting a business meeting. My mom, Rita, kept adjusting the napkins, like neatness could control reality. Evan leaned back in his chair with that confident grin that always showed up right before a request. I pushed my phone deeper into my lap. My heart was beating too loud. Dad cleared his throat. "Maya," he began, "your brother has a real opportunity, something big." Evan nodded fast. "It's finally time, ground floor, the kind of thing people regret missing." I stared at my lasagna, suddenly not hungry. "What is it?" I asked, even though my brain was already trying to escape the room. Evan's eyes lit up. "A platform, subscription-based. It helps small creators monetize faster using AI scheduling and trend prediction." He said it like he'd invented electricity. Dad continued, "Your mother and I are putting in 20,000. Your Aunt Marcy is doing 10. We need you to." To finish the pile, Evan cut in. 40, that's all." I looked up slowly. $40,000. Evan smiled like I'd asked for the weather. "It's not that much for you," he said. "You're doing great." That line. That was always the line. And I felt the old pressure rising, the familiar tug in my chest, like if I said no, I'd be breaking something sacred. But then my phone buzzed again. New device sign-in attempt blocked. I didn't see it coming. Not like this. I forced my voice to stay calm. "Excuse me, I need to take this." My mom's face tightened. "During dinner." "It's work," I lied, already standing. I walked into the hallway, past framed photos of us smiling in better years, and answered the security number displayed on my screen. A woman spoke clearly. "This is Nora Hale, account security with Ravenbrook Federal. Are you authorizing a password reset on your savings and brokerage accounts?" My mouth went dry. "No." "Thank you, we've blocked 3 attempts in the last hour. The IP address originates from," she paused, "a residential router in Pine Hollow. Does that location mean anything to you?" I stared at the hallway wall. Pine Hollow was my parents' neighborhood. "Yes," I said carefully. "I'm there right now." A beat of silence. Then Nora's voice dropped into professional seriousness. "Ma'am, someone in that house is attempting to access your accounts." My hands went cold. And then she added, "But that wasn't the worst part. They also attempted access to your credit line and identity profile." My stomach flipped. "Can you lock everything?" I asked. "We can freeze your savings and brokerage immediately," she said. We can also place a temporary hold on any transfers, initiate an identity protection protocol, and send you access logs. Do it, I said, all of it. Then I whispered, can you tell whose device it is? We can identify the device signature, she replied. If you report this, investigators can subpoena the router logs and confirm physical access. I swallowed hard. Send me the logs. Already on the way, Nora said. And Ms. Reed, do you know who it might be? I looked back toward the dining room. The soft clink of forks. The casual laughter. Evan's voice, animated, pitching his dream. Yes, I said quietly. I know exactly who it is. When I returned to the table, the conversation didn't stop. Evan was explaining how investors love founders with vision. Dad nodded along like Evan was already successful. Mom watched me too closely, like she could sense my mood shifting. I sat down slowly and placed my phone on the table, face down. Dad smiled. Everything okay? I met Evan's eyes. Someone is trying to break into my bank accounts, I said. Evan's fork froze. Mom's voice went sugary. Oh, honey, that's awful. People are hacking everyone these days. Yes, I said, especially when they already have your information. Evan swallowed. What are you implying? I didn't answer immediately. Instead, I opened my banking app and pulled up the security log Nora had sent. Then I slid my phone across the table toward my father. Read it, I said. Dad's eyebrows pulled together as he scanned. My mother leaned in. Evan didn't. He just stared at the screen like it might explode. Dad cleared his throat. This says, attempts from our internet. And the device signature, I added, matches a laptop that connected here tonight. Evan laughed once, sharp, forced. That's ridiculous. I leaned forward. Evan, last month you came to my apartment. You asked to check your email on my laptop. His face flickered. I kept going. My account numbers aren't written anywhere except in a private encrypted file. Mom's voice trembled. Maya, stop. You're making accusations over a technical issue. 14 attempts in 2 days isn't a technical issue, I said. Dad raised his voice. Enough, this is family. And I said the sentence that changed the room. Family doesn't try to steal from family. Silence fell so hard it felt physical. But that wasn't the worst part. Because the next notification landed like a hammer. Attempted credit inquiry blocked. Someone was trying to open credit in my name. Right now. While we ate lasagna. Evan pushed his chair back. I didn't steal anything, I was just checking. Checking what? I asked, keeping my voice low. How much you could take? Dad looked between us. Evan, tell me you didn't do this. Evan's lips parted, then closed. Mom's hands shook as she grabbed her glass. Maya, you have to understand, your brother is under pressure. I'm under pressure too, I said. I've been under pressure for years. Then I did something I'd never done at this table. I brought receipts. I opened my laptop bag, pulled out a thin folder, and placed it on the table like evidence. Evan stared at it. Dad frowned. What is that? My ledger, I said. Every time you asked, every time I gave, every time you promised it would come back. Mom's eyes widened. You tracked us. I tracked my life, I replied. Because every time I tried to build one, you reached in and took from it. I flipped open the folder. A clean spreadsheet printed. Dates, amounts, notes. Evan Ventures, $172,500, I said, tapping the page. Parent emergencies, $38,200. Family events I covered because you said money was tight, $11,900. Dad's voice cracked. Those were contributions. No, I said, those were withdrawals. Evan scoffed, but his face was pale. You're acting like you're broke. I'm acting like I'm not your bank. Then my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered on speaker. Ms. Reed, a man's voice asked. This is Officer Daniel Krell, Financial Fraud Unit. Your bank's security team flagged attempted account intrusion and identity misuse. We need a statement." My mother went white. My father's jaw tightened. Evan looked like his lungs forgot how to work. Officer Krell continued, "We will also need to collect the device used for these attempts." Evan whispered, "Maya." Dad snapped, "Officer, this is a misunderstanding. We can handle this privately." The officer's tone stayed calm. "Sir, attempted unauthorized access is a crime. The bank is required to report it." All eyes turned to me. This was the moment they expected me to protect Evan like always. This was the moment they expected me to soften. But I didn't. "I want to proceed," I said. And for the first time in my adult life, I felt the power of a boundary holding firm. Evan's voice turned desperate. "You're really calling the police on me over a login attempt." "Over a pattern," I said. I looked at my parents. "Did you know?" Mom's eyes filled. We didn't think he'd actually." Dad's silence answered better than words. I turned to Evan. "You told them I was hiding money, didn't you?" Evan stared at the table. Dad finally spoke, quiet and heavy. "He said you were sitting on a fortune and refusing to help. He said you were selfish." My throat burned. So they knew. They knew he'd gone through my files. They knew he'd tried to get in. And instead of stopping him, they served lasagna and asked me for 40,000 like nothing was wrong. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was realizing the dinner wasn't a request. It was a distraction. A stage show. While Evan worked in the background like a pickpocket in a crowd. I stood up slowly. My chair scraped the floor, loud in the quiet room. "You want to know why I didn't tell you about my finances?" I asked. Mom whispered, "Maya." "Because every time you learn I'm okay," I said, "you treat it like permission to take more." Dad tried to regain control. "We are your parents, it's not taking. It's family." "No," I said, "it's entitlement." Evan's voice rose. "You make 6 figures, you don't even have kids. What do you need all that money for?" I laughed once, bitter. "To live without fear that my own family will rob me." Then I opened my laptop, pulled up a page, and turned it toward them. Not to brag. Not to flex. But to end the illusion that I was clueless and pliable. A simple overview: assets, accounts, property. My parents' eyes widened. Evan's mouth fell open. Dad stammered, "Maya, why do you have?" "Because I planned," I said. "I worked, I sacrificed, and I didn't gamble my future on one big idea every 6 months." Evan whispered, "So you do have it." I leaned forward. "And you tried to access it." Officer Krell spoke again through my phone. "Ms. Reed, are you safe right now?" I looked at the 3 people who raised me and used me. "I am," I said, "but I'm leaving." I packed my folder back into my bag. My mother stood up, crying, "Please, don't do this. He's your brother." "And I was his sister," I replied. "I acted like one. I gave, I covered, I rescued. He responded by trying to hack my life." Evan's voice broke. "I wasn't going to steal. I just needed to know what you could spare." "That's stealing," I said, calm now. "That's literally the definition." Dad stepped toward me. "If you walk out, you're tearing this family apart." I paused at the doorway. "No," I said softly. "I'm just refusing to be the glue you use to hold together his failures." I walked out into the night air. The porch light clicked behind me. My hands shook when I reached my car. Not because I doubted my decision, but because part of me still wanted them to run after me and say, "We're sorry. We were wrong." They didn't. The investigation moved faster than I expected. Bank security pulled device signatures. A forensic report confirmed the access attempts came from Evan's laptop, connected to my parents' Wi-Fi. When officers examined the laptop, they didn't just find my account numbers. They found folders, notes, screenshots of my investment dashboards, A list of banks I'd used in the past. Even a draft email titled, Loan Proposal to Maya, Final Version. Final version. As if stealing the money first would make the proposal easier later. What happened next changed everything. Because the report also showed an attempt to open a line of credit using my identity. Not for a business. For personal spending. Travel bookings, electronics. A lifestyle Evan couldn't afford. And the realization hit me in a sick wave. This wasn't desperation. It was strategy. Evan's lawyer pushed for a deal. My parents begged me to be merciful. They showed up at my apartment one afternoon, looking older than they had a week earlier. Mom held her purse like a shield. Please, Maya, if he's charged, his life is ruined. I didn't invite them in. I said, he ruined his life the moment he decided I was a target. Dad's eyes flashed. You're punishing him for being ambitious. No, I replied. I'm holding him accountable for committing fraud. Mom sobbed. We made mistakes, but we're still your family. And I said the hardest truth I've ever said out loud. You don't get to call it love when it only shows up with an invoice. They left without another word. That night, I sat on my couch in silence, staring at the city lights through my window. I didn't feel victorious. I felt grief. Because justice and sadness can live in the same place. 2 months later, Evan accepted a plea agreement. No prison, because it was attempted, not completed. But he received probation, mandatory restitution, court-ordered financial counseling, and a formal no-contact order regarding my accounts and personal data. He also had to surrender devices for monitoring. My parents weren't charged, but they were listed as cooperating witnesses. And the court required them to attend family financial boundaries counseling, basically, a polite way of saying, stop enabling this. Relatives had opinions, of course. Some called me cold. One cousin texted, how could you do that to your own brother? So I replied with one sentence. How could he do it to me? And I blocked her. Then something unexpected happened. My Aunt Marcy called. Not to scold me. To confess. Evan asked me for money too, she said quietly. He said you were already in. He made it sound safe. My stomach sank. It wasn't just me. I wasn't just the family provider. I was the family reference. He used my name like a stamp of approval. And suddenly, everything made sense. Without the constant emergency calls and guilt traps, my life changed in ways I didn't predict. I slept better. I stopped checking my phone with dread. I took a weekend trip without feeling like I needed permission. At work, I got promoted to director-level risk strategy. My boss said, you're sharper lately, more focused. I didn't tell her why. But I knew. I wasn't bleeding money and energy into a bottomless hole anymore. And then one evening, I sat down to dinner with friends. Simple food, cheap plates, laughter that wasn't forced. No one asked me for a quick loan. No one measured my value in numbers. And I realized something that stung. I'd spent years thinking family dinners were supposed to hurt. They're not. 6 months after the lasagna night, a letter arrived at my office. No return address. Just my name in Evan's handwriting. My stomach tightened as I opened it. Maya, it began. I'm in a court program now. They made us list every person we took money from and every lie we told to get it. I kept reading, bracing for manipulation. But the letter didn't ask for anything. It admitted things Evan had never admitted before. I convinced myself you didn't need it. I told myself it wasn't stealing if it stayed in the family. I was wrong. Then the line that made my throat close. I thought you would always save me, and I punished you for being the only responsible person in the room. He wrote about getting a job, an actual entry-level job, working under someone younger than him. He wrote that he hated it at first. Then he wrote, turns out building something starts with showing up. At the end, he added, "This isn't an apology that fixes it. I just wanted you to know I finally see what you've been carrying." I read it twice, then a third time. And for the first time, I didn't feel rage. I felt something quieter. Closure, maybe. Or maybe just the beginning of a truth that should have existed years ago. I didn't respond. Not because I wanted revenge, but because peace sometimes needs silence to stay alive. A year later, my mother invited me to dinner. Not lasagna. Not candles. Just soup and bread. I considered ignoring the message. But curiosity pulled me in. When I arrived, the table looked normal. No company plates, no staged elegance. Mom's hands trembled as she poured soup. Dad sat stiffly, older, smaller somehow. No one mentioned money. For the first 10 minutes, we talked about weather, movies, work. Then Mom whispered, "We miss you." Dad's voice was rough. We did it wrong. I waited, because I'd learned not to trust sudden warmth. Mom said, "We thought we were helping him. We were actually destroying all of you." I didn't forgive them on the spot. I didn't pretend it was fixed. But I said something honest. "I can have a relationship with you," I told them, "but it can't be built on guilt. No more requests, no more pressure. If you cross that line again, I'm gone." Dad nodded slowly, understood. And for once, the agreement felt real. Not perfect, just real. Hear what that night taught me. Betrayal doesn't always come from enemies. Sometimes it comes from people who smile at you across a dinner table while quietly trying to access what you've earned. And the revenge wasn't ruining Evan's life. It was refusing to keep funding his lies. It was choosing truth over tradition. Choosing boundaries over guilt. Choosing justice over silence. Because family isn't supposed to be a transaction. Love shouldn't come with a withdrawal slip. And support should never require you to become someone's personal ATM. If you've ever been the responsible one, the helper, the strong one, remember this. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is stop being used. And sometimes the family you need isn't the one you were born into. It's the one you build, with people who don't ask you to bleed to prove you care. If this story hit you, like the video, subscribe and comment. What would you have done in my place? Would you press charges or forgive immediately? Disclaimer: this story is fictional and for entertainment purposes only.